Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrory, and Tom Hayes.
Both Frank and I have similar philosophies of defense wins, and I think both teams defend pretty well. They're defending better than we are this year, and I really like, in watching film on them this week, I really like what I've seen out of South Carolina.
They got old guys. They got guys that have been in his system. Think about our team a year from now. Think about the improvements we've made from this time last year to this time this year, individually and as a team. He's got a year head start on me.
It's time to run them out there again. The Gamecocks and the Tigers head-to-head, the rivalry alive in basketball now. We know all about the football rivalry. We know all about the baseball rivalry. The men's basketball rivalry trying to make a place for itself in the sports conscious of the fans in South Carolina. And maybe tonight will be the kind of game that will get that done, get that get the juices flowing between the fans. We'll have a big crowd over at the Colonial Life Arena as the Gamecocks and Tigers meet again a little bit after 7 o'clock. It'll be televised on the SEC network, but hopefully you are going to make plans to be out at the CLA to take in the game. And welcome into Sports Talk as we lead you up to South Carolina Clemson basketball tonight here in South Carolina. Lots to do. Major stuff on the recruiting front as Clemson picks up a big junior offensive lineman commitment, and Mark Fields reveals plans to visit South Carolina officially. So that's not dead yet with Fields and the Gamecocks. We'll talk all about that coming up in a little bit. Also, we'll hear from the Gamecocks who practiced today. Clemson also did not practice today. They'll practice tomorrow, but we'll hear from the Tigers starting quarterback, Cole Stout, looking ahead to the bowl game. Let's jump over to the Colonial Life Arena. K-Mac is there and in place. In fact, he was out at football practice first, K-Mac. So let's begin with that before we hit our first break. Any news out of the Gamecocks football practice this afternoon?
No major news. A couple of the coaches came by. We talked to G.A. Mangus and Steve Spurrier Jr. One notable thing, trying to read between the lines with Spurrier Jr., he was a little non-committal on if Shaq Rowland will be back next season. Of course, he's had some problems on and off the field with inconsistency and discipline, but he was non-committal there, so that's something people should keep an eye on. And he was also a little, deflected things with the recruiting. I asked if they maybe stopped the bleeding, so to speak, and he said it's recruiting. He didn't want to mention if there was any correlation between the 2 to 3 year comment that his dad made for the defections, but they are hoping that they have the bleeding stopped at least and are trying to prepare for Miami. That's a week from tomorrow, believe it or not. Yeah,
it's moving up quickly, and the Gamecocks will be practicing on through the weekend and into next week, and then leaving for Shreveport first part of next week. I think they go down on the 23rd. And we'll get more from K-Mac from the CLA in just a moment. A little bit more of a basketball scene setter from him. Who wins tonight? 800-956-7266. Pro is off tonight. Corn in the studio. K-Mac at the arena. Back in a moment. All right, it's Sports Talk on a basketball Friday night in South Carolina. USC Clemson at the Colonial Life Arena, Chick-fil-A Classic at Richland Northeast High School. And, of course, in football, we've got the Shrine Bowl tomorrow in Spartanburg. I'll be heading up for that. Looking forward to watching the Sandlappers hopefully do their thing tomorrow and pound the Tar Heels into submission. This is the one time I can actually root for a team in our state to wreak havoc on an opponent. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully the weather will be okay as well. Your thoughts on tonight's basketball game? We should generate some excitement about that. Who do you like? Gamecocks or Tigers to win this thing? High scoring, low scoring, defensive dominated? Who's going to be the star player? Which player will shine tonight? One player emerging from the game to kind of take over. Will it be Sindarius Thornwell? Will it be Rod Hall? Will it be perhaps the freshman at Clemson in his debut in the series stepping up and showing the way? He's had a terrific start to his freshman season. Talking about Dante Grantham averaging 10 points a game. All 5 Clemson starters average in double figures as we bring K-Mac back in from the arena. So it's a balanced Clemson lineup, a little bit bigger across the board, the Tigers are, than the Gamecocks, because the Gamecocks will start the 3 guards, and Tigers will go with the traditional 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center, 6'8", 6'7", 6'10", across the front line for Clemson, K-Mac. And interior defense and rebounding, I don't know. Maybe I give a little bit of an edge to Clemson on that point. Because of the size, and Noko is a pretty good rebounder, 7 a game. He can be a good shot blocker as well. And South Carolina, Henry, one of their big guys, how many minutes can they get out of him? Because he seems to find himself in foul trouble pretty early most games.
He's going to be banging around in there with some big guys. You know, you mentioned Noko, 6'10", 255 pounds, so he has about 40 pounds, give or take, on Henry inside there. Although Henry has played a little bit better here the past couple of games, he's definitely a little more comfortable in that spot inside. You know, he is more comfortable roaming around a little bit on the outside, but he's forced to play inside there. But he's put on a little weight from his freshman year. You're right. These two teams both like to do a lot of the same things. They get after defensively. They grind it out. They make you work hard for every basket. They score in the transitions where they get a lot of their offense. And, you know, the one advantage for Clemson, perhaps, in terms of the guard play, you know, Rod Hall and DeMarcus Harrison are both seniors. They've been on the court a couple of times. Dwayne Notice and Sindarius Thornwell both playing very well right now, but both just sophomores. So they're early in their second seasons, obviously. Yeah,
you're right. I mean, you got a lot of young talent that's going to be on the floor tonight for both teams. I think it's an excellent matchup across the board tonight. You look at some of the head-to-head matchups, and I think we're going to see some real good battles out there on the court. Depth-wise, I might give South Carolina a little bit more of an edge. I think they go a little bit deeper on their bench with Marcus Stroman getting quality minutes. Justin Mackey has become a contributor for them. They get Carrera back. Cashinus is, of course, a major player for them. He gets 23 minutes a game. I think came back to South Carolina's bench is a little longer than Clemson's based on how the 2 head coaches have used their players so far this year.
And getting Carrera back is definitely a boost for the Gamecocks because he's one of their energy guys off the bench. He's a grinder. And he fights for those rebounds, and I'm sure he's going to be chomping at the bit to get back on the court after dealing with those concussions that kept him off the court here for the past couple of games. So, that'll be an intriguing matchup to watch. And you mentioned Justin Mackey. For fans that haven't seen him play much since last year, or even going back to his Irmo days where he was solid under that great program, won a state championship, he has grown so much physically. And his game has grown as well from last year. He is really leaps and bounds different player than he was a year ago, and is playing quality minutes, and his defense has really improved from last year, and that's why Frank Martin is trusting him more to play. So, we keep getting back to this. It's the third year for Frank Martin with this group. Brad Brownell's kind of settling in now in his fourth season at Clemson. You can see these programs starting to get a little traction, and you can see in the personality of the coaches showing a little bit more here, and the development of players very evident, and that's how you can tell you have good coaches. And we saw under Darren Horn where teams kind of collapsed down the stretch where you didn't see a lot of development. In fact, you saw guys usually transferring before they were juniors or seniors. Those days are gone, and now you're seeing a much better product because of it.
Yeah. I wonder how much zone Brad Brownell will choose to play tonight. He doesn't usually like to play a whole heck of a lot of zone, but South Carolina to this point has not been a good three-point shooting team, shooting under 30% behind the arc. If I'm Brad Brownell, I might take a look at that and keep my guys back in a zone as much as possible and dare South Carolina to beat me from the outside.
I would think that would be my strategy. Not let those talented guards get into the paint, make them beat you deep with some of the outside shots, and if they knock those down, then maybe mix it up a little bit. So that'll be an intriguing thing to watch play out here. And I really love the way Clemson plays defense. And Brad Brownell, that's what he preaches. Those are the kind of guys he recruits. And I know some Clemson fans didn't like that after watching Oliver Purnell's teams go up and down the court and score a bunch of points. They were bored with Brad Brownell ball. The 3 yards in a cloud of dust analogy that he made. I know he compared his basketball teams to Danny Ford football teams and said Clemson fans should love that. And I think they're kind of it's grown on them now because they love winning and they kind of like that lunch tail attitude that he brings from a defensive standpoint. So, I don't think either one of these teams are going to get 70 or 80 points tonight. I think this is going to be a game in the 60s, maybe high 60s, mid and low 60s. And, because of the way these teams get after it defensively.
Yeah, and Clemson, they're no better. They shoot 29% from behind the arc. So maybe Frank Martin's going to sit back in the zone as well. Whichever team can make some threes might be the team that wins this game. And, of course, free throws down the stretch, turnovers always important as well. These two teams are, as I look at them statistically, they're pretty much mirror images of one another at this point in the season.
Yeah, the records are pretty much the same. Clemson 6-3, the Gamecocks 5-3. The Tigers playing much better though after a couple losses against Winthrop. Gardner Webb beat them in the Big South, but as we've mentioned, 3-0 against SEC teams, and they beat a couple good SEC teams too. Arkansas, we talked about this last night with Mike Morgan. That's a really good. That's an NCAA tournament team at Arkansas, and the way Clemson came from behind to beat them. And LSU is another very good team with a lot of talent on it down in Baton Rouge. So this is a Clemson team that is more than capable of playing with about anybody, and they're going to go through the ringers in the ACC, as we all know. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. The Gamecocks, their best game under Frank Martin, it seems like a year ago against Oklahoma State before the exam break. They were just so in tune and so well-oiled at that point. Now, can they pick up where they left off? Is there going to be some rust? How much of a factor will the long layoff? I mean, almost 2 weeks since their last game. What will that be for them? The Tigers have had a break, but not quite as long as they played Sunday night against Auburn.
All right, real quick, any feel on what the attendance is going to look like?
We know that they're going to let in the Gamecock Club members for free. The students aren't here. I was walking around the corridor, in fact, in that opening segment to kind of get a feel. People are coming in here. I think it's not going to be a packed house, but they're hoping maybe for, 12, 13,000 fans that they can get them out here on a Friday night. Yeah,
that'd be a good crowd for them. And, Friday night's kind of tough. Saturday night game, I don't know why this game's not being played on a Saturday night unless ESPN is showing the women's volleyball championship or something.
Yeah, SEC. That's the SEC network.
Yeah, I know. But whatever the case may be, ESPN still pulls the strings. I think this game would have been even better on a Saturday night, 7 o'clock, like old-time basketball in our state. But, hey, nobody asked me when to schedule it. So
no, they don't care what you think.
All right, we'll get back to you in a little bit. I need your picks, by the way. Get those to me.
Yeah, I'll get those to you.
Yeah. We got picks coming up tonight. The governors are supposed to be with us. I know Governor Hodges is on board. I haven't heard from Governor Beasley. Hopefully he'll be on board. Lee Sterling will be with us. Going to hear from Cole Stout. Going to hear from the Gamecock football folks as well. And to do recruiting here in just a moment, try to catch up with Ben Freeman with the Shrine Bowl team too. We got a lot to do on a Friday. Back in a moment. Friday night here on Sports Talk. Phil Kornbluth from our downtown Columbia studios on Main Streets, high atop Main Streets in downtown Columbia, looking out over the gorgeous setting that is the capital city with all the lights, all the people humming up and down Main Street. Wonderful place to be. Sports Talk is your sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. We're glad you're tuned in wherever you are around the states. Go ahead and give you the recruiting report for tonight. I know we'll be losing some stations to basketball here coming up. Today, 2016 offensive lineman Sean Pollard, who is 6'6", 290, of Southern Pines, North Carolina, committed to Clemson. He announced this at his school over Duke, North Carolina, NC State, and Wake Forest. Tigers' third commitment for the 2016 class. He camped at Clemson, made multiple trips during the season with members of his family, developed a good relationship with offensive line coach Robbie Caldwell. And this is a young man that is bent on starting as a freshman. Kind of feels like nobody will outwork him. He's tenacious, and he thinks he's going to have a chance to step in there and help out with the Tigers in 2016. Not sure where. Could be tackle, could be guard. USC, Miami, Virginia, Penn State, some other offers for him. So the Tigers get him out of North Carolina. They miss on defensive back Mook Reynolds of Greensboro, who last night decided to stick with Virginia Tech over the Tigers and Michigan. Now, Mark Fields, the former Gamecock commitment from Cornelius, North Carolina, the defensive back, remember when he decommitted earlier this week, he told us that he wasn't closing the door completely on USC. Today, he pushed that door open a little bit more, tweeting that he'll make officials to USC January 24th and Clemson the week before that. Texas was the other school he mentioned earlier in the week as a possible official visit. You recall that he was uncertain about USC's coaching stability after Steve Spurrier's comment of 2 to 3 more years. Now that Spurrier has made the comment of 4 to 5 more years, and he said that Spurrier said that Ray Tanner is going to extend his contract back to 5 years. Maybe that has mollified Fields just a little bit. Of the 6 decommitments overall the Gamecocks have suffered since October, Fields appears to be the only one that is still salvageable for them. The Gamecocks have actually had 2 other scratches from their 2015 class. Defensive end Chauncey Rivers, remember him? He would be their 7th decommitment. Wide receiver Michael Bowman had his offer rescinded after being arrested for theft last summer. And I checked in on junior quarterback Brandon McElwain of Newtown, Pennsylvania last night. Plans to make his decision within the next month. Been working with a 6 of USC, Penn State, Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Virginia Tech. He will not shorten that list publicly before he makes his commitment. He was able to visit USC, Penn State, Auburn, and Florida during the season. He has family in Irmo and Greenville, actually was in the state over Thanksgiving. He says he's talking the most with USC, Penn State, Virginia Tech, and Auburn, not talking that much with Duke and Florida. Talked with USC recruiter G.A. Mangus on Wednesday, and Mangus was by the school twice in the last couple of weeks. He really believes that USC, Penn State, and Auburn are the 3 schools on him the hardest right now. Those are the 3 that have kind of moved towards the top of this list. Those 3 seem to be the 3 that he is most focused on, but he says right now no single one has emerged as a favorite. Be right back. No better present to bring you for the start of bowl time in America than our bowl picks for our football filibuster. As tonight we bring you once again two of the greatest governors in the history of the state of South Carolina. And I say that with complete honesty and not something that they have pre-written for me. We welcome in Governor David Beasley. Governor Beasley, how are you?
I'm great. I'm wonderful. How are you? Merry Christmas.
You're in the Christmas spirit already, I hear.
Absolutely.
Doesn't take much to lift your spirits. Let's welcome in Governor Jim Hodges to Sports Talk in the Football Filibuster. Governor Hodges, how are you, sir?
I'm great. Nothing better than to spend a few days before Christmas with my friend David Beasley.
There you go.
Merry Christmas to you, Jim. How are you?
Thank you, David.
The Mutual Admiration Society, I just love it. It proves that we can all get along in this country. That's a great thing. You guys are a fine example of that. All right, we've got a lot of work ahead of us, so let's dive right in and get this done. First of all, Governor Beasley, let's tell everybody where things stand after this past week. A couple of weeks ago, the championship weekend. Governor Beasley, you went 3-7, leaves you at 66 up and 84 down against the spread. And Governor Beasley, you went 4-6. You're now against the spread 500, 75 and 75. Now, guys, we're going to do 15 bowl games, okay? And I know some of these we don't care about, but what the heck. I'm trying to give Governor Beasley the chance to get back in this thing. So here we go. Governor Beasley, are you ready?
I am absolutely ready.
Have you done enough preparation? Have you done your studying and looked into the depth charts and checked the injury list and all that?
I had thrown the darts on the board, and I have determined that it's more accurate than my comprehensive analysis. So let's rock and roll.
All right, here we go. We'll let you lead off here for a little while. We'll begin with Arizona State against Duke, and Duke is getting 7.5. Governor Beasley.
I'm going with the Blue Devils.
Blue Devils over the Sun Devils. Governor Hodges.
I am too. That's far too many points. I'll take Duke.
You want Duke and that offense. Okay. Texas A&M and West Virginia. West Virginia's quarterback, he's now clear to play after his concussion. Governor Beasley.
Man, I'm gonna give that quarterback a little bit of opportunity. I'm going with West Virginia.
West Virginia getting 3.5. Governor Hodges.
I'll take A&M in this one.
Okay. Let's go to Arkansas and Texas. Despite its troubles, Texas defense still pretty good, ranked pretty high nationally. Getting 6, the Longhorns are against the Razorbacks. Governor Beasley.
Razorbacks.
Arkansas. Governor Hodges.
I totally agree. I think Arkansas is going to take it handily.
Okay. Let's go to LSU, Notre Dame. Notre Dame plans to play 2 quarterbacks against LSU, and Notre Dame's getting 7. Governor Beasley.
I'd probably take LSU if Notre Dame had 150 points, but I'm going with LSU.
I see a little SEC bias going on there, Governor Hodges.
Of course.
Yeah, they need to let Notre Dame play 14 players if they're going to win. I'll take that. I'll take LSU.
You want LSU too? Okay. Again, Notre Dame getting 7. How about this one? Georgia and Louisville getting 7. Governor Beasley.
That's a pretty good one, but I'm going to go with the Bulldogs.
Georgia. Now, you're picking nothing but SEC teams, Governor Hodges.
I think that's too many points. I'm going to take Louisville. They're pretty good.
Okay.
So I'll take Louisville.
Actually, Governor Beasley did take West Virginia to beat Texas A&M, so you're not strictly SEC.
Not strictly.
TCU and Ole Miss. Ole Miss getting 3.5.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm gonna roll the dice and go with TCU.
TCU. That's not much of a roll, in my opinion, Governor Hodges.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Ole Miss hit its high against Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I'm going to take TCU.
All right, both of you taking the Horned Frogs. Arizona and Boise State. Boise State getting 3.5. Governor Beasley.
I do think this is a tough one. I'm gonna go with Boise State.
Boise State. What about you, Governor Hodges?
I'm going to take Rich Rod in Arizona.
Arizona. Got him. All right. Mississippi State against Georgia Tech. Yellow Jackets still can't get much respect. They're getting 7 points, Governor Beasley.
Mississippi State. I might regret this one, but this is I'm going to roll with the Mississippi State boys. I think they still got a little more flair, and Tech's on a roll, though.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. What about you, Governor Hodges?
I think 7's too many points. I'm going to take Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech. All right. Auburn and Wisconsin. You don't know what's going on with the Badgers. Auburn's got a new defensive coordinator. Can he wave his magic wand? 6.5 points for Wisconsin, Governor Beasley.
I'm going with the in-laws on this one. I'm going to go with Auburn.
Governor Hodges.
Yeah, Wisconsin changes coaches like South American countries change presidents. I'm going to take Auburn.
Auburn laid the 6.5. With that defense now, just because Muschamp has stepped onto the campus now, they don't all of a sudden become the Chicago Bears of the, what was that, the 40s when they were so good?
Well, they are like the Chicago Bears.
Of today.
That's what it's like.
I'm talking about the monsters of the Midway back in, the 40s and 50s, back when you were a child.
I thought you were talking about the current Chicago Bears.
No.
They're a lot like them.
Yeah, I get that. All right, you're taking Auburn too. All right, Governor Hodges, now you shall lead us, as you did for a while in the State House. Baylor, Michigan State. Michigan State getting 3, Governor Hodges.
I'm going to take, you know what, I'll take Michigan State in this one.
Michigan State, Governor Beasley.
I think I'll flip on that one and go to Baylor. I think Baylor might pull this one off.
That's reasonable. Missouri and Minnesota. Minnesota getting 5.5, Governor Hodges.
Minnesota. I think Minnesota is really well in the game.
Governor Beasley.
I think Governor Hodges is right. Minnesota's pretty good on this one.
Golden Gophers. Oregon and Florida State. Now we get to the semifinal games here, the 2 semifinal games. Oregon and Florida State getting 9. When's the last time they were a 9-point dog? Governor Hodges.
The undefeated team getting 9 points. I'm going to take Florida State. I think Oregon will win really big play.
Governor Beasley.
I think Oregon's going to win too, and I think that's a little bit much for points. But I need to catch up somewhere, so I'll go on the other side to get a little hope here. That's with Oregon. Okay,
not a bad choice. Alabama and Ohio State, the Buckeyes, down to their 8th quarterback, get 9.5 points. Governor Hodges.
Yeah, well, I think their defense is pretty good. So 9.5 points seems far too many. I'll take Ohio State to keep it close.
You went Ohio State. Okay, Governor Beasley.
Well, I was going to pick Ohio State for those same reasons that Jim picked, but I think I'll try to get a little spread, flip over to Alabama, make my wife happy, and that's a win-win for me.
Ain't no way Ohio State stays within 9.5 of these guys.
Oh, my gosh.
So I think you're making the right pick is what I'm saying. You
I know.
Take Alabama and lay the points. I don't see that
Every time I picked Alabama, if I pick them, I lose, and if I don't pick them, I lose. So I'm going to go with my wife.
Like your chances here. All right, let's go to Miami and South Carolina. Governor Hodges, the Gamecocks getting 3.5.
I'll take the Gamecocks. I don't have any real reason to do it other than that Miami just always seems to underperform. So I'll take the Gamecocks.
Governor Beasley.
I'm with Jim. I think the Gamecocks will. Spurrier's going to put a little good stuff down there and make it happen. And that's it. Gamecocks.
Gamecocks for both of you. And finally, Oklahoma, Clemson. Clemson getting 3.5. Governor Hodges.
Yeah, I'm going to take Oklahoma only because of the quarterback situation.
Yeah, Clemson having to go with Cole Stout. Governor Beasley.
Yeah.
That is definite logic. And I can't imagine Clemson without our number 1 quarterback, the way Stout has performed. So I'm going pull for Clemson, pray for Clemson, but Oklahoma.
At the end of the day, your mind is going to win out over your heart, huh?
I mean, I don't want to throw one away.
You need every one you can get. Now, Governor Beasley, would you like to make any adjustments, any changes?
Yeah, on January 2nd, I'll let you know my adjustment. The only chance I have.
Now, this is it. This is your last chance at glory is right now.
Oh, that's it.
No amendments, huh? Governor Hodges, any amendments for you?
I'm going to stick with my picks. I feel pretty good about it.
Guys, we thank you so much all year long. We had a great time. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to both of you guys. Be healthy, and we'll see you next year. Governor Jim Hodges, Governor David Beasley, football filibuster here on Sports Talk. Lee Sterling coming up. right, we move from the amateurs to the professional. We welcome in Lee Sterling for our Sterling Bowl picks tonight here on Sports Talk. Lee, how are you?
Doing great. I just enjoy this time of year. Everyone's in a good mood, and everything slows down for me. I don't have to study 55 college games each week, just 39 of them from tomorrow morning at 11 in the morning until the national championship game.
Do you find yourself watching every bowl game, if at all possible, live or on video?
Yeah, and I tape them. I actually tape every game the entire season. So any game that's on anywhere, I keep it, and I watch games all summer. I'm a football junkie, and I might be out to dinner, so I might miss a half or three-quarters of a game. But as soon as I get home, I'm usually watching the game when the wife and kids are going to sleep. I just like the nuances of it, and I just find it easier. I find November is the toughest month because you're in conference play, a lot of injuries, but teams are able to recharge and reset for the bowls. And I find the two most important things picking bowl winners: motivation, number one. There's no motivation, you want to stay away from that team. And coaches, interim coaches, I think they win about 20% against spread the last 5 years.
All right. I think the motivation thing is a big point. Tell everybody where they can go get your information heading into the bowl season.
Just go to the website, ParamountSports.com. Last year, 25-6 run, the bowls, NFL playoffs, and Super Bowl. The year before, 28-10. So this is usually when I do my best work, and I think there's some great situations. We're 26-2 over the last 6 years during the year on our 40 to 50 unit selections, and it looks like I'm going to have a 45 or 50 unit selection on the bowl. So if you want to get involved, go to ParamountSports.com. Use coupon code SAVE100. Save $100 on the entire set from now, the last 2 weeks of the NFL season, 39 bowl games, NFL playoffs, and Super Bowl. Just $397 with the coupon code SAVE100, ParamountSports.com, or you can always call the office, 800-400-9741.
All right, sounds good. You've given us the semifinal games and USC Clemson's bowl games. Let's get to them. Yep. Alabama, Ohio State. Alabama favored by 9.
And at first I looked at this game and I thought it might be a little high, but the matchup here, you get Nick Saban and defensive coordinator Kirby Smart. They get a month to game plan, and when big stakes are on the line, you want these two guys in your corner. This Alabama team had a few guys that were nicked up, and they were able to work through it and somehow play the last couple weeks. And Sims, their quarterback, getting better and better, completed almost 65% of his passes for 26 touchdowns, and they have a running game to boot here. I think Alabama scores late and covers 34-20.
All right, Oregon, Florida State, same spread in favor of the Ducks.
Well, here's what's interesting about this game. You know, you get the Heisman quarterback, and you'd think that they'd have the momentum, but usually not the case once they reach a bowl game. And Heisman Trophy quarterbacks and the game after in the bowl game, just 2-8 against the spread. So you get the former Heisman winner in Winston. I think this Florida State team is going to have a chip on their shoulder. This game reminds me of the Texas game when they played USC. Everyone's talking about the Ducks. They're the flavor of the month. All you heard about Florida State over the last month was they're due to lose, but they found ways to win. They won 29 straight games. If Winston holds his own, and I think he will, they've got a shot. I know this for sure. They've got the best running back in the game in Dalvin Cook. They've got the best receiver in Green, best tight end in O'Leary, and the best kicking game with Aguayo. I think the head coach for Oregon, Helfrich, I think he's going to feel the pressure. It's his first game on the national stage here in a big bowl. I think the wrong team's favored, guys. I think Florida State upsets Oregon here 42-38.
All right. Yep. Oklahoma, Clemson, Sooners favored by 3.
And I don't get this line, guys. I think it's if you're smart here, you jump on Oklahoma right away. I think the line's going to close 5.5. Knight will start the game, and when Trevor Knight's starting, that makes that Oklahoma spread option so much more dangerous here. 2 real good offensive tackles, Williams and Thompson. I think they're going to go high in the draft for Oklahoma. This is an offensive line that paved the way for 269 yards rushing per game, 6.1 yards per carry. That's the most in Oklahoma for the last 20 years. So this is a real prolific running game here. Clemson, they do have the number 3 defense, but I think the only chance they have to win this game here is something like 10-7 or 13-10. Stout, I think he's unwatchable. I think their special teams, ranked number 99, have been abysmal, and that might cost them also. I like Oklahoma here, big guys, 27-10.
All right, got to hold you for just a moment, if you don't mind, so we can get that Miami and South Carolina game for you coming up. It's Miami favored by 3 there as well. We'll get that pick from Lee in just a moment. All right, back to Lee Sterling with his final pick for us before we say goodbye to him for the holidays. We'll see him again around Super Bowl time. All right, South Carolina, Miami, and Miami is favored by 3.
You know what? I first looked at this game, guys. I thought this was clearly going to be a South Carolina call, but I studied the tapes, and this Miami team got better and better. I think there's something going on with the South Carolina team, and I can't back them. And I looked at both units, offense, defense, and special teams, and of the 6 units, surprisingly, South Carolina has the weakest 2. It's their defense, ranked number 81 in the country, allowing 434 yards per game, worst in school history, and their special teams ranked 78th. And if you remember back against that Florida game, that cost them there, that kick that was blocked returned for a touchdown. So this is a team, Miami, that has a running back, Duke Johnson. I think it's going to be his last game, and I think he's going to be motivated, and a quarterback in Kaya just seems to be getting better and better. I think Miami's going to win this one. I think it's going to be very entertaining, 41-34.
All right, yep. And you got as your game of the week, TCU and Ole Miss.
Wow, this is going to be a matchup here. You got the number 2 offense in TCU and the number 5 defense in Ole Miss. SEC Big 12 matchup. If you want to get this game call right now, toll free, 800-400-9741. Again, the number 800-400-9741 to get this one on me. And if you'd like to get involved and get our bowl package, which starts tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., just go to ParamountSports.com. Use coupon code SAVE100, ParamountSports.com, or 800-400-9741. And I want to wish all you guys a happy and healthy holiday. You, your family, your staff, and all the listeners. Sit back, relax, enjoy your family, and spend some time together. Then if you got a little extra time, spend it watching a little bit of football.
You got that right. Same to you, and we look forward to talking to you in 2015.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.
Thank you. Lee Sterling from ParamountSports.com. Now, as far as the panel's picks for the bowl season and our current standings, I went 6-4. I lead at 74 and 76, 6-4 during the championship picks. Pro went 6-4, but now he didn't send us his picks. He's off tonight. Didn't send us any picks. I'm going to have to penalize him. K-Mac was 1-9 last week, 65-85. State Man 4-6, 68 and 82. And Matt the Newsman 5-5. He's in second, 72 and 78. I'll just tell you the top of the board. Everybody picked Oklahoma except for Matt the Newsman. He took the Tigers. All of us picked Miami. All of us picked Alabama except for Matt the Newsman. And all of us took Florida State and the points. Let's see. I'm the only one that took Minnesota. The rest took Missouri. I took Baylor. K-Mac took Baylor. The other two took Michigan State. We all took Auburn. I'm the only one that took Georgia Tech. We all took Arizona. K-Mac the only one to take Ole Miss. I took Louisville. Newsman took Louisville. We all took LSU. We all picked Arkansas. We all picked Texas A&M except for Matt. And I took Duke. Be back. Top of the hour break.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. 800-956-7266 is our number. If you'd like to dial us up tonight, we've got time for your calls. Coming up, we're going to hear from a couple of Gamecock assistant football coaches. Going to hear from G.A. Magnus, quarterback's coach, and also going to hear from Steve Spurrier, wide receiver coach. That'd be Steve Spurrier Jr., wide receiver coach and recruiting coordinator. They talked with reporters after practice today. We'll bring some of that to you. Also, Clemson quarterback Cole Stout on taking back over as a starting quarterback and getting ready for the bowl game. They are off and running over at the CLA in downtown Columbia, about 3 minutes in, and it's close. USC out to a 6-5 lead, and Demetrius Henry with 4 points, 2 for 2 from the floor for South Carolina. Chikafishis has the other basket for the Gamecocks, and as I speak, Clemson takes a 7-6 lead. It's the freshman, Dante Grantham. He's off to a good start for the Tigers. He's got a 3-pointer. He's 2 of 3 from the floor. He's got 5 points. Blossom Game has the other basket for the Tigers. Both teams are 3 of 6 from the floor thus far. Both teams Clemson has hit a 3-pointer. South Carolina is 0 of 2 from 3-point land. So they are off, USC Clemson, and it's the Tigers up 7-6 over at the Colonial Life Arena. We'll get an update from K-Mac coming up a little bit later on. A lot coming up for you here on Sports Talk. One other recruiting note I ran across during the break, USC commitment Quandeski Whitlow, linebacker out of Alabama, has set an official visit with the University of Florida for the last weekend of the recruiting season. So he already has a visit set with Louisville as well. Also his visit to South Carolina on January 23rd. So South Carolina's got to keep an eye on that one as well. Quandeski Whitlow going to take a visit to Florida, new defensive coordinator from Florida, getting in there and getting him down for an official visit to Columbia. All right, got some email that we can talk about as well here on the program. And let's see here. This is from John writing to us about the comment on Stephon Anthony being a bad call when he was cited for targeting in the USC game. He says that Dylan Thompson was a defenseless player. There was helmet-to-helmet contact. It was a late hit and would have been called roughing the passer without the helmet-to-helmet contact. In my viewing experience over the last 2 seasons, SEC refs have always called targeting when there is helmet-to-helmet contact on a defenseless player. In the 2014 season, the ruling on the field was not overturned unless there was clearly no HHC. Blah, 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 blah. ACC refs apparently do not call it consistently. It might be a bad rule, but it was not a bad call. I don't know. My memory of that was not so much helmet to helmet, I didn't think. We'll be right back.
Good. They're fast. Yep. They're fast. Linebacking crews, really good. They run around. Their safeties are good. They're fast. Yep. They're fast. Linebacking crews, really.
Yeah, going back to the email from John we just read, referring to the Stephon Anthony ejection and suspension for the first half of the bowl game, and we were talking about that earlier in the week. I thought it was a bad call, and now after looking at it again on video, I agree. It's a bad call. I disagree with John. You have to have what they call forcible contact with the helmet, and you have to be launching to be considered a targeting foul, and he did neither. He did not launch. That's clear as day. Now, the helmets did hit. The helmets are going to make contact. I mean, it's unavoidable. You're going to make contact with the helmet, but it was not forcible contact. He did not lead with the crown of the helmet, and he did not launch. So two of the key provisions of the rule that need to be applied for a suspension, for an ejection and then a half-game suspension, did not apply in this particular case. And how the SEC officials, like the writer said that SEC officials tend to be a little tighter on that call maybe than ACC officials, and it was an SEC crew. But still, that's no excuse. I mean, it's there in front of you, and you've got plenty of time to slow it down and watch it over and over again in the replay booth. So still think it was a bad call. Don't think he should have been ejected, and thus I don't think he should be forced to sit out the game. Game coming up. That's my take on that. All right, over at the arena, South Carolina leads Clemson 12-7, and Henry continues to lead South Carolina with 6. He's 3 for 3 from the floor. Chikavicius has 4, and for Clemson, Grantham continues to lead with 5. Gamecocks are now shooting 67% to Clemson's 33%. Couple of turnovers for Clemson, only 1 for South Carolina, and nobody's in real foul trouble at this point. They're about 7 minutes in to the game. Now, today, USC football. Gamecocks had another practice today. They brought over some of the offensive folks to talk with the media, including quarterback's coach, and I guess he's the passing game coordinator as well, is he not? G.A. Mangus. And supposedly he works with the tight ends, too. I mean, he was given that title as well. Don't know how much he works with the tight ends. But he does have a good feel for this Miami defense, which is pretty good. One of the best defensive units in the ACC this year. And so the Gamecock offense will have its hands full against Miami. They're 5th in the ACC in pass defense efficiency. And in total defense, they are 4th at 328 yards per game, total defense, and in pass defense, they're 2nd at 184 yards per game. So this will be a real test for the Gamecock offense, and as Mangus pointed out, athletes on that Miami defense, especially the front 7 defensively, very good.
Good. They're fast. Yep. They're fast. Linebacking crews, really good. They run around. Their safeties are aggressive, and we'll have to be on point, but he prepares like he always has, and it's had some good practice so far.
I think that he's driven that he wants to finish his career with a pretty good game.
Yeah, we all do. We all finish the year. That's one everybody talks about the rest of the year, So, and it's his last one, and I know he wants to play well his last one, and I think he will.
Jed, you guys even started looking ahead to the spring and the quarterback battle now, or is that just too far off the ball?
No, that's last thing we're worried about right now. Although they have gotten plenty of reps, we always try to give the young guys reps during bowl practice. That's why it's always critical to get in one and let these young guys play a little bit. So they've got some good scrimmage time here the last week or so.
Has Farrow taken increased reps at quarterback?
No.
How'd they do in this? I know you guys had a full contact scrimmage the other night. How'd the young quarterbacks do there?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. Connor Mitch it's really been, it's been going for about 3 or 4 weeks now. Yeah. He's starting, the light bulb always kind of goes on at some point. And he's starting to figure it out and made some nice throws and some checks and has done some good things. And Perry and he both, the other night, and Skarnecki has gotten some reps too here.
So he's coming towards Mitch is coming toward the end of his second season here with the program. Is that sort of the timetable typical for a quarterback, young quarterback like him to grasp the program and light bulb come on, as he says?
It depends. Connor played right away. You just now he got a lot more reps though, and he came, and all that. So he hadn't gotten a chance to play as much, but he's doing fine. He's doing fine, and just hadn't gotten a chance to get out there and play a whole bunch in a game situation. But he's done well. It's been good for him this last week or so.
Skarnecki. I know Coach Spurrier talked about Skarnecki in the past. Talked about him in pretty glowing terms. How's he done? I know he's a true freshman, but there's probably still in.
Yeah, he's got a ways to go, but he's a very smart guy, and his cerebral ability is what gives him an advantage, and he's. He's learning. He's got to play. He's got to play and just get some reps. So, we'll get him out there in the spring, get him some work.
How do you sum up Dylan's career?
We'll sum it up here in another week, and see. But Dylan's done some good things and been a great leader here, and hopefully he can finish the thing off.
All right, G.A. Mangus talking to the media after a USC practice today. So it feels like Dylan Thompson has had a good bowl practice so far. And trying to talk up Connor Mitch there a little bit. It's really unfair. It's unfair, the perception people have of Connor Mitch, because the little bit of game time exposure he's had has not gone all that well. But, it's such a small sampling. He's hardly played. And people are ready to draw conclusions that this guy's not any good. And, they need somebody else at quarterback, needed to recruit a junior college quarterback, needed to go after Chad Kelly. That was my suggestion. But that was no slight towards Mitch. That was more of, hey, Chad Kelly's a little bit more of a proven commodity. Why wouldn't you, considering the lack of experience you have at quarterback going into next year, why wouldn't you try and bring in a quarterback who's a little bit older, who's played a little bit of big-time football and a lot of junior college football? That's the big thing with South Carolina next year. Everybody's been talking about the defense and what's going to happen there and pinning all the blame on the defense. And I think that's misplaced blame. I think offensively, their offensive line did not have a great year across the line. And I think Sean Elliott's got to be held accountable for the performance of the offensive line too. You look at it, the center play was very erratic. The snapping to the quarterback in the shotgun was sometimes you never knew where the ball was going to be. High, low, left, right, on the ground, dribbling. They got to do better than that. And, I don't think that A.J. Cann got plenty of accolades here in the postseason. Maybe he had a pretty good year individually. But, on the whole, this offensive line at times got manhandled by defenses and could not open up consistent running lanes for the backs. Could not protect Thompson at times. He was under duress quite a bit against better defenses. So I don't think he had a great year on the offensive line. And my point is that I think the defense will be better next year. Now, whether or not Spurrier believes he needs to make changes on his defensive staff, I'm not inside his head. But I think with the additions and just the simple maturity for the guys that played this year, unless they've just made total mistakes in recruiting, I think they'll be better defensively. I mean, I think they've got some talent in that secondary. All those guys were pretty highly regarded in that last class that came in. Lamons and Wesley Green and Baker, not Baker, Harris. They were all pretty highly regarded players, and you should start to see these guys play with a little more of their talent and not thinking so much, but reacting and being more decisive in their play out there. I would think so. I think the linebacker play is going to continue to be better. Sky Moore, after they had kind of a sort of a questionable start, I think they got better at linebacker. The 3-4 turned out to be a horrible decision. And I think when they went back to the 4-2-5 and everybody felt more comfortable with what they were used to doing, I think at times you saw a little bit better defensive play. Of course, a lot of all that was negated by the lack of a pass rush. And they may have solved that with some of the guys that signed this week. Only time will tell how good those guys are. USC up 16-9 on Clemson just inside of 10 minutes to play, first half. All right, give you some details on what's happening over at the CLA. USC has stretched its lead now to 20-9. Clemson has hit only one of its last 11, and the Tigers have turned it over 3 times over the last 7.5 minutes. They're down to 25% shooting. They're only 4 of 16 from the floor. And South Carolina's 9 of 17. That's 53%. Clemson with 4 turnovers, the same as South Carolina. The Gamecocks winning the rebounding battle huge, 14-6, including, it's only 2 on the offensive side. Not a big deal. 14-6, though, rebounding battle in favor of South Carolina. Points in the paint, the Gamecocks have 12 to Clemson's 6. So inside, South Carolina getting it done so far. Henry with 6, Chikafishus with 6, Notice with 5, Cashinus with 2, and Thornwell with 1 for South Carolina. I'm telling you, I believe, and I saw the Gamecocks in their tournament in Charleston. I've seen them some at home too. Thornwell ever since he stopped trying to carry the offensive load, this team has gotten better. I think when they were in Charleston, he tried to be 60% of the offense, took a lot of shots, had that one half when he was outstanding. That was in the second. Who they play in the second game? Was that Charlotte they played in the second game in Charleston? I think it was Charlotte. Anyway, had the great first half, then a horrible second half. Then he kind of went into a shooting slump. But he has, I'll check the stats here, but he's sort of cut back on his shooting attempts. He's not scoring as much, but others are stepping up, including like Dwayne Notes. And I think maybe the ball is moving around a little bit more. More people are getting touches. For Clemson, Grantham, the freshman, leads the way with 5 points. Blossomgame has 4 points. The only player, two players have 2 fouls. Henry, surprise, surprise, he's got 2 fouls for the Gamecocks. Ajukwa has 2 fouls for the Tigers. So it's a 20-11 game. South Carolina leading the Tigers with 7:44 to play in the first half over at the Colonial Life Arena. Coming up, we're going to hear from Steve Spurrier Jr., and also we'll hear from Cole Stout, Clemson quarterback, as he's getting ready to play his final game with the Tigers, be the starting quarterback as they prepare to take on Oklahoma in Orlando. South Carolina, just looking at their practice schedule for next week, they have released that, and the Gamecocks will be getting to Shreveport. They'll get to Shreveport on a Tuesday of next week. Miami's going to get there on Monday. Gamecocks will get there on Tuesday. Won't practice on Tuesday. They will practice Wednesday, Christmas Eve. Practice again on Christmas Day. And then, of course, they'll have a little walkthrough, light practice, whatever, on Friday, and then play on Saturday. We'll be back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network.
Obviously, you don't want to see Deshaun go down, but it's kind of a chance for you to ride off.
Couple days with all the
Obviously, recruiting was a critical day.
Yeah.
Obviously, recruiting was a critical day.
Yeah.
Well, Clemson's making its run. 8-0 run for the Tigers over the last 2 minutes. Gamecocks only 2 of their last 8 and 4 turnovers over the last 2 minutes. And so it's a 2017 game. USC leading. Blossom game now with 7 for the Tigers. Grantham and Harrison with 5 each. Tigers have warmed up to 32%. Gamecocks cooled off to 47%. And Gamecocks have turned it over 7 times, and Clemson has turned it over 5 times, and the Tigers have taken advantage of those turnovers. They have 12 points off those 7 turnovers by the Gamecocks, and let's see who's turned it over the most for the Gamecocks here real quick if I can find that. Let's see who's been the sloppiest with the basketball. Dwayne Notice has 3 of the Gamecocks' 7 turnovers. At this point, Henry has 2 turnovers at this point. All right, we'll keep you up to date. We'll check in with K-Mac when they get to halftime. Back to Gamecock football, though. They practiced today. Looking at their schedule moving forward, we gave you the itinerary when they get to Shreveport. But as far as this weekend and moving forward from there, the Gamecocks will practice tomorrow, 3:30. Practice Sunday, 3:30, practice Monday, 3:30, and then practice on Tuesday, 9 in the morning, and then take off for Shreveport around noon. There will be no interviews from any of those practices, so you won't hear from the Gamecocks again until Spurrier. He'll meet with the media in Shreveport on Tuesday when they arrive. He always talks at the hotel, get a little something there. On Wednesday, Thursday, after practices, they'll talk with the media, and then on Friday, the pregame news conference, then the game on Saturday. But today, Steve Spurrier Jr., who is the receivers coach and also the recruiting coordinator, he came over to talk with the media, and folks wanted to talk recruiting with Steve Spurrier Jr., especially what the Gamecocks did on Wednesday, signing those JUCO players and also getting the mid-year high school players signed to their financial aid agreements.
Obviously, recruiting was a critical day.
Yep.
Marquavius Lewis, big player,
Yep.
top D in the nation, what that meant to our class, what it meant to all the speculation, everything that goes on in the world. For the best player in the nation, say, I'm going to South Carolina, I'm going to be a Gamecock, and let's go play. It meant so much to everybody else, too. You know, all 9 of those guys coming in are great players, and it clearly makes a mark going forward, finishing through January into February. But we know we got to work hard in January, too. Everybody's recruiting all our guys. We know that. So we got to keep recruiting them, and it's a good group. We can get them all here.
Steve, how was Shaq in bowl practice so far?
Not too bad. Yeah, not bad at all. He hasn't had the year that he would have hoped that he would have had. He hadn't had the year I would have hoped he'd had. But he's a talented young man, and that's what gets discouraging as coaches, because you want him to play to the level that you know he can play. So, but he's doing fine. He's practicing hard. His personality, demeanor, attitude's been good. So we just got to keep grinding, keep getting better every day out here.
Do you know if he's applied for a projection from the NFL?
I do not know that at all.
Can you pinpoint anything that sort of set him back this year?
No, Demir Bird hadn't had a great year either. And those are 2 guys that are really talented that, the whole year I kept waiting for them to really, really play well, and they both just hadn't played as well as they could have. But they're talented young men. They're both going to get their chance to make a difference in this game, and hopefully they play well.
Do you expect Shaq back next year?
Sure. I'm back, who's coming, who's leaving. I'll let y'all speculate all that. I'm trying to worry about getting the best guys I can on the field to beat Miami.
Watching the film, why was the theory why you think Shaq didn't have the year to You thought he?
I don't know, and then I mentioned Demir, same boat. I don't know. It just didn't. Farrow certainly did, though. So if y'all get an opportunity to say he's done well, I'd appreciate that. It'd be good.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be critical, though. Why is this guy bad? Why are we struggling here? Why is this happening? But we had some good things happen this year on offense, too. We're certainly going to highlight those things going forward.
Yeah, was it just a situation where Farrell just played very well and just really just zoomed past those guys maybe and became the number one receiver?
Well, he's just good at everything. Yeah, he's good at quarterback. He's what you call a ball player. He can do anything. And when the ball is in his hand, he's a better player. But he's gotten his opportunities. He's made the most of them. He's just a difference maker when he's on the field, and he's just so good in so many situations. So it's been fun coaching him, and he's definitely coming back next year if you need to know about that.
You mentioned that you said other teams are recruiting your guys. You've put out some fires in terms of recruiting.
Well, it just is what it is, and it means we've recruited well. When you've recruited well, I remember there was a time we had a bunch of guys committed and we couldn't get rid of them. They were ours. Nobody else was recruiting them. Now we're recruiting people everybody else in the nation wants, and that's a good thing. But it's also something you got to stay strong with and keep recruiting the heck out of them and understand all the negative stuff, everything that goes on in recruiting. You got to battle that every day, and we're going to fight that through January and hopefully put this class together.
Do you want me to continue to use the financial aid paperwork going forward?
People have talked about all that stuff. Are you talking about for January or talking about
just in general for the high school kids, whether they come in January or at any point during the process?
And what's the question? I missed it.
Are y'all going to sign high school kids, to that financial aid paperwork?
The ones that are going to come in January?
Just
overall. As a philosophy, it sounds like you guys sign more high school kids this time than financial aid papers coming in January.
Well, the main thing was the January, and you can financial aid during the fall. And there's pros and cons to that a little bit. And honestly, if a guy signs that paper and you talk about him, which allows you to talk about him, which is obviously a benefit to your program. But if he goes somewhere else, then it's a violation. So it's both ways on that. But obviously, if you need a guy to sign something that says he's coming to your school and you can keep talking about it, it makes a difference. I'm kind of a fan of that.
I think you have four high school kids who are graduating early and coming in the program. It might be a high since you've became head coach.
Nine coming in January. That's a huge number. We've never had that before. So no, recruiting's been very different this year. Signing possibly 30, 31 guys. I mean, it's been a very, very different year in recruiting.
Well, they've talked about mid-year enrollees for a long time. But is that a new trend now around the nation to have high school kids graduate early?
Well, it's been picking up every year, and it changes every year. And there's pros and cons to that, too. We've had guys come in January to quit. I mean, because it's hard. You get here in January, you're taking 4 classes, and you're 28,000 people on campus. It's difficult. So you typically don't do it with a lot of people. We've got a couple guys coming in that are injured that can get the rehabilitation they need. And that's a huge benefit to Sherrod Pittman getting here early, getting his legs strong. But the majority of the time, it's now quarterbacks. You kind of like to get him here. I can't talk about him, but if there's guys that as a quarterback, if you can get him here early and get him in the spring, there's a benefit to that. But we couldn't get him here early. But other guys, it's it's hit or miss, especially high school guys, unless they can make a difference for you the next year.
From a game planning standpoint, how do you adjust to having more reps out of Jarrell Adams now and no reps out of Anderson?
You don't. You just go. Jarrell, obviously, it's a different package than what we've done in the past with both those guys on the field. We know we don't have that. But Cody Gibson's done a good job in there, and what his role will be, we've changed some of the things, some of the way we mix our offense up. So our plays and the schemes when both those guys have been on the field in the past, obviously we won't do a lot of that stuff. But Jarrell's certainly a talented player, and we've got a lot of stuff in for him, and we're spotting him around the field to give him an opportunity to make a difference in this game.
Like the timing of signing the high school guys, or something you want to do
earlier? You know what? There's pros and cons to that. I've talked a lot about that. Obviously, if you could sign all of them now, if you have a good class, you'd love to do that. Mm-hmm. And then there's times where some guys will commit early, and then they end up going there, and you have a chance at those guys. There's all kind of variables in that. I see reasons to like it and reasons to be against it. Whatever they do will be fine, but yeah, it's hard to say. Getting those 9 guys here and in the boat, those pretty strong for us. We're happy about that.
Do you feel like you kind of weathered the storm? I mean, it looked like some guys were going away, and the 2 to 3 year comment people mentioned, are you back to the why? I mean,
whatever. And recruiting's recruiting. It is what it is. We signed 9 really good players coming in, and it's going to make a big difference for us going into January with the rest of the guys we're recruiting. So we're excited about that, and hopefully we can close this class out as a good class.
Based on your film study, how do you guys match up with the Miami second?
Miami's got a good team. Their linebackers are all great, every one of them. I mean, they lead in every category: tackle, sacks, interceptions, every single. I mean, their middle linebacker—it's got 108 tackles or something. He's everywhere. He's a hard guy to shake. So we obviously got to do well against him. But it'll be a fun game. You know, it's they got a good team. They play well. They've lost some close ones. They've lost some games. That Florida State game was a tough game for them. They shoot out a 26-0 or 6 lead in that game. So they got a good team. You know, they're Miami. We're looking forward to playing them. It'll be a fun game out there.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, some good stuff from Steve Spurrier Jr. there, as he's talking a lot about recruiting and what this Wednesday meant to the Gamecock football program in terms of turning the perception around just a little bit by getting some people to sign the dotted line. 28-24, USC leads Clemson.
Obviously, you don't want to see Deshaun go down, but it's kind of a chance for you to ride off in the sunset on a good note. How important is that to you?
That's very important. You know, just kind of finish out. It's very important. You know, just kind of finish out next few days here at Clemson. You know, playing with this great. No matter the outcome of this next game, we'll leave this program.
Give you a quick little high school basketball update courtesy of South Carolina Farm Bureau Insurance. First night of play in the Chick-fil-A Classic, and you've got Keenan leading Lower Richland 34-25, 12:28 to play in the half. They're playing 16-minute halves there, and LaMarcus Johnson of Keenan was the high scorer with 12, and Jared Richardson, C.J. Nuttry each had 6 for Lower Richland as they were going into that second half. Keenan leading LR 34-25 as play is underway in the Chick-fil-A Classic over at Richland Northeast High School. They're at halftime at USC. Clemson closes strongly, hits each of the last 3 shots, a 6-0 run over the last 90 seconds. Gamecocks missed their last 4, did not score over the last 3 minutes. Clemson takes a 30-28 lead into halftime. We'll catch up with K-Mac here in just a little bit and get more details on that. But now to Tiger football. As they were off today, they'll be back practicing tomorrow. They're getting ready, of course, for Oklahoma. Cole Stout gets the ball one final time. The senior will be the starting quarterback. He said earlier this week that certainly he'd like to go out with a big win.
It's very important. Just kind of finish out the next few days here at Clemson. Playing with this great team, being a great program over the past few years. And, a better way to go down to Orlando and finish it off right.
Obviously, the season hasn't gone the way exactly you had planned. Would it feel like a successful season even more if you were to knock this Oklahoma team off in a bowl game?
Oh, yeah. It would always be great, end off the season with a positive note. And just kind of going out there having fun, being with the guys one last time, just giving it all that you can. Just, you left the field that you did everything you could. And, it's just throughout this whole season, it's been ups and downs, but, I don't think I can ask for it to go any other way because it's led us to here. It's got me here. It's put me in a situation I am now, and I'm happy with it. It's made me the player who I am today, and it's a good feeling.
How different did it feel in there? No Chad, you got a new QB coach there. It's got to have a little strange feeling.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's still the entire team. We know what we got to do. We know how to prepare and everything. We learned from Coach Morris, and now that he's gone, it really hasn't been a drop off. We all know what we got to do, and we got great coaches still here, Coach Scott and Elliott. They're doing a great job leading us, getting a good game plan. With our new quarterback coach, Coach Streeter. He's doing a great job, and he's a fun guy to be around. He's trying to get the best out of us now. That's what we really need.
Coach Venables give you any tips on what to expect from the Sooners defense at all?
He's talked to us a little bit. We're going to keep chit-chatting with him, but that's all in the game plan.
When you haven't really, taken the time to say, hey, this has been, a problem for me, would you say it was confidence, the injury, really the game plan not for you? What would you say has been, the biggest reason that you've struggled in some of these games?
It's just something that, just try to get into a rhythm every now and then, and just sometimes play doesn't go right. It's just, I don't know really how to explain it, but it's just kind of have a feel for it sometimes. And sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. It's just something that you got to keep practicing on, working on every single day.
Does it help your confidence a little bit knowing that this is your game? I mean, Deshaun's not in the picture. He's hurt. He's recovering. That this is your game. There's no question. Does that help your confidence a little bit going into this football?
Yeah, it does, but it's really not all about it. It's not a confidence problem at all. You still got to go out there and prepare. And, there hasn't ever been a confidence issue. It's just been going out there and having some fun and playing. That's just what we got to do. It's what I got to do. And it's just how it's got to be.
Is it nice to maybe have a little bit of a reset button with Chad gone, a new offensive coordinator, a new quarterback coach, just kind of one last big change for you, but maybe a reset button?
It's a change, but it's really not a big reset button because we're still running the same offense, still executing the same way. Just we're still going to be the same team. We're still going to execute to the best of our ability.
All right, Cole Stout looking forward to his last opportunity to quarterback the Tigers. Let's see if he can get a win against Oklahoma. I remember when they played the Sooners the last time in a bowl game. That was the Citrus Bowl back in the Danny Ford era, back in the 80s with Rodney Williams at quarterback. Tigers had a great offensive day that day. In fact, they had, if I remember correctly, why am I thinking they went to – I have to look this up. Did they go to the Citrus Bowl back-to-back years? They beat Oklahoma one time and they beat Penn State one time. I have to look that up and see if they went back-to-back or if there was a break between those two games. But they were very impressive offensively in those particular games. Those particular teams Danny Ford really kind of cut his team loose, and I remember it was one of those games that Rodney Williams in particular had a big game throwing the football, particularly to his tight end. Was I right about that? They played them back-to-back in the Citrus Bowl. Am I right about that? Why am I questioning myself? Of course I'm right about that. Yeah, and Rodney Williams was particularly good in which one? Do you remember which one he was particularly good in? 87, 88 with the back-to-back years. They beat Oklahoma and they beat Penn State. All right, we'll get K-Mac up in a moment. All right, a good first half over at the CLA. Each team having its moments. First, South Carolina had a big lead. Then Clemson closed quickly. 2-point game at the break, 30-28. Let's bring in K-Mac for eyewitness accounting of the first half. So what's your take on how things played out in that first half?
Well, the Gamecocks got out to a great start. They led by 11 points and really seemed to be finding their offense and frustrating Clemson, but the Tigers reeled off a 10-0 run. They switched to a zone defense, and it stymied the Gamecocks, the Tigers' zone defense. They were on that 10-0 run and turned that 11-point deficit into a 2-point halftime lead, and really balanced scoring for both teams, actually. Nobody in double figures, but Jerome Bossingame leading the Tigers with 9, and Hakevicius has 8 points to lead the Gamecocks scoring. Demetrius Henry has 6, and Kachinas has 6 for the Gamecocks. So it really, both teams had their moments in the first half, but the Tigers in the second part of that half pulled up and got that lead.
Yeah. Gamecocks are 1 of 9 from 3. We talked about this pregame that could be a factor both ways. Clemson 3 of 7. And Clemson goes to the zone. Did South Carolina zone up Clemson any?
A little bit, yeah. They were mixing up their defense, and the zone seems to be the problem for both of these offenses. So I think you're going to see a lot of zone, definitely with the Tigers, because the Gamecocks they try to get a little more spacing and stop the bleeding. But the turnovers, they have 8 turnovers in the first half. Clemson has 7. Both teams at moments have really gone into cold spells. So the Gamecocks went about 3 minutes without a basket and had 4 turnovers in that span. That's when Clemson went on that 10-0 run.
A big difference here. You mentioned the turnovers, about even, but Clemson has turned those turnovers into 14 points to USC's 4. Are most of Clemson's points off those turnovers coming on breakaways and fast breaks?
Yeah, they're getting the breakaway points off the turnovers. But, not all of them, though. And I'll tell you who's playing really well is DeMarcus Harris. My goodness. I mean, he's hit a couple of big threes. He has 8 points, but one of those threes coming on a second chance. He had a dunk down the lane that was just, probably something if you missed it, watch SportsCenter tonight. I imagine they'll show that. It could be one of those top 10 type of plays. So he's been impressive. And Brad Brownell's got some big bodies out there. It's my first look at Clemson up close. It's very impressive, some of these guys, from a physical standpoint.
How's the crowd?
Very good crowd. Lower bowl completely full. Upper deck, not full, but a nice, lively crowd here for a Friday night with no students.
All right, make room for me. I'll be there shortly.
All right.
Know you're excited about that. K-Mac from over at the Colonial Life Arena, 30-28, halftime between the Gamecocks and the Tigers. Any final thoughts, Steak Man, before we depart for the weekend?
I just hope you have a wonderful weekend. That's all I care about.
Well, thank you. Everybody have a great weekend. We've enjoyed being with you all week long, and we'll be back here live next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all live shows. Christmas show on Thursday, but it'll be good. Back live with you from Shreveport on Friday. So have a great weekend. Enjoy the Shrine Bowl, the basketball, the NFL, and more. We'll see you next week here on Sports Talk.